Hey folks, welcome back to TheByteBit. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at a file manager. This one is called Polo, and it's really quite good. In fact, I've been using this for about 2 weeks now, and I gotta say it's got a bunch of features and utilities that I think are really hard to find in some of the existing file managers out there. And yes, it's still in beta. It's been in beta for a while, and the developer actually has put in some really good time, or a decent amount of time, to get it to work as well as it does. And this may not be a full replacement to your current file manager, but I think it's worth taking a look at and seeing if it's worth a download for you guys. So before we jump into the installation, which is really quick, and the application itself, just wanted to spend a minute, giving credit where it's due. We're taking a look at Tony George's website here. He's the developer for the application, and I'll put the link in the description below. Now, I do know that he's got a bunch of other utilities and apps that he's developed, of course, all open source. For you guys to check out, and some of them are really quite handy, so I suggest you guys do if you have a few minutes. And what I've done here is just pulled up all the posts with Polo in it, the tag, because that's the name of the file manager, and he talks about all the releases and the versions and gives you some commands to run. In fact, today is October 6th here, so he just released an update today, and it talks about tab locking. Now, I'll go over that in the application a little bit later, but he also does describe some of the fixes that were applied to this release also. So you might want to take a look at that and see if those are issues you were facing. If you're already running this app and you wanted to upgrade, I suggest you do. So one other thing about the site here is that you can also make donations, and I highly recommend that you guys do if you have a few minutes and a few dollars to spend. His work is actually pretty good, and like I said, for the past 2 weeks that I've been using the file manager, it's been pretty good and great, in fact, and I think he's only going to make it better over time. And so you can throw him $10, and if you do, there's an added bonus. You do get to unlock some more features, and I've actually opened up another page here, and this is his GitHub page. It actually has a bunch of links on the side, the pages here, that I highly recommend, because you can click on the latest release, and you can even see information about cloud storage and the images and stuff that he allows you to work with. So $10 gives you a donations plugin, and it allows you to write ISOs. You can manipulate images if you get a context menu when you right click on an image file. And you can even work with PDFs quite a bit. So there's also one other thing here, is the video download plugin that I think I should mention. And what it does is it uses YouTube DL to essentially pull down a video and save it locally. And you can even choose the quality. Yeah, you can actually choose the quality and type that you want and download it. So neat, simple, pretty straightforward. And you guys might find it useful to have all of this built into one application. Now, I gotta admit, in the 2 weeks that I've been using it, I haven't had one crash or lag or slowdown of the app. It's been working pretty good. That isn't to say that there aren't any. I'm sure every app has its bugs and issues, and you can even follow them here on the GitHub page. But I really want to point out that since this is labeled as a beta, I hope that it doesn't deter you from trying it out, because in the end it might actually prove to be a really useful file manager for you guys. So that pretty much covers the donations that I wanted to talk about, the developer himself, and even his webpage that you guys can access if you'd like to. So let's go ahead and minimize this here real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal like you see here. And even though I have the application installed, I'm just going to go through the install steps because they're very simple and straightforward. And in fact, I'm going to copy them from his webpage. So let's go ahead and click back here, and let me click back to the main link, and I think it's the second post. So these 3 links will actually get you the application on your system. So I'm going to right click and copy, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in and hit enter here, enter my password, let it finish adding in the PPA, come in here and we'll run a quick update. This shouldn't take very long either. So it's getting some information here. There you go. That wasn't too bad. And then we'll come in here and we'll run the file manager install. There you go. Now, again, as I said, I have it installed in my system, so it's just letting me know that I already have the latest version. So that's great. So let's go to minimize this here, and I'll minimize this. Obviously, we have to start it from the launcher, so I'll go ahead and click that. And here's the Polo icon here. I'm going to right click on this and say add to favorites because it's going to throw it onto the dock for me. And you guys might want to do that just for ease of use and convenience. But I'll go ahead and click on Polo here and we'll load this up. So before the file manager loaded, you guys might have noticed a little splash screen that said restoring session, and that's actually important. That's indicating that it's actually bringing up the last known state. As in, if you guys were working in one particular folder, or in this case, two different folder locations, it'll remember that. And so the next time you open up File Manager, it takes you right to that state so that you can continue working. And I think that's fantastic. So this way you don't have to keep driving down or drill down into a particular folder or set of folders, and you can really just kind of pick up from where you left off and go from there. Now, when you first start Polo File Manager for the first time, what you're going to be presented with is a sort of style wizard, and I'm going to go ahead and invoke that just so you can see what that looks like. And here is essentially what you get. And what this is trying to do is kind of set your style or layout preferences that you might want to select so that you can, begin using the application with the layout that you prefer. So in this case, it's trying to tell you what would you like to use. And this is the classic icons. It's a simple Explorer sort of layout where you have the icon layout with the folders and the names below them with the places and bookmarks on the left-hand side. Now you can obviously click on Next and get a details pane, which gives you sort of the modified date and time, the type of the file and or folder that it happens to be, plus some size details. You can switch and you can actually get a double pane or dual pane view. And for most of the work that I do, which involves testing and file management, I work with XML and PHP and so on. So I actually require sort of two or more folders that I work in based upon my training session, my build session, my test session, and including my production. So you can see how quickly I need multiple folders or multiple destinations to help me sort of get through a working day. So these are two split screens, and even though it doesn't particularly point this out, essentially these two can be totally different sources. So the one on the left hand side could be your home test folder, as this points out, but on the right hand could be an FTP location or an SFTP location or a Samba UNC share. So really, I mean, this application is well built, it's well thought out, and it really can come handy for what you're trying to do for your work purposes or even just day-to-day activities. So if I click on Next here, what you'll get is the same sort of view, the split pane view, but it'll be in list view so you can see your details. And you can actually move on and get a quad view, which is the four folders. Now, typically, I've been using this in my environment here, and actually my main machine, I've been using this because, like I said, I actually work with multiple versions or multiple environments for my particular software or my clients. And so, on the left hand side I'll have my base folder, on the right hand side I'll have customer or client A, client B, client C, or I might have the test environment here, the build environment, and the production. So the four quadrants may seem like a lot, but if your situation calls for it, it's ideal. You can click Next here and you can go back to the original pane. I'm actually going to go to a double view here and I can click Apply, which is what I've done in the background, and you'll get this view here. So this is essentially what you start out with once you've selected the view that you want to have presented to you. And on the left hand side you'll see in all the views that you select, you've got your places here, your frequent places that you would normally expect to click on. And this is similar to almost all of the file managers you get out there. You can go to your music folder, your desktop, your documents and such, and you'll be able to access your trash can, delete, and restore if you need to. But you've also got your bookmarks here, and bookmarks allow you to save locations that you access frequently. I think that's great. It's not high tech or it's not particularly innovative, but it is helpful nonetheless. And essentially, if I want to create a location that I think is helpful to me, let's say for instance the CD-ROM drive that I have here, I can actually click on Bookmarks here and add to bookmark. And when I do, you'll see it show up right below this downloads folder. So I'll click on Add to Bookmark, And there it is, Ubuntu 17.4. So I'll click on Downloads. It's empty. I'll click on my Ubuntu 17.4, and there are the contents. So you can see that the left-hand navigation is actually pretty useful, because apart from the bookmarks and apart from the places, you can also look at the devices, which come in handy throughout the course of your day. I mean, you can actually access your particular drive here. You can see that it's the slash or the root or the home, the main directory here. So you can access your etc folder, your bin folder, your devices, your configuration, or your var logs if you need to look at what's going on in the system. In fact, I did want to point out one thing here. So you can see that visually, Polo Manager or Polo File Manager shows you with the lock indicator here, the folders that you need admin access for and the folders that you don't, that you natively have access to. In fact, here's temp folder that I can just get right in, and the system folder is locked. So there's a quick and easy way within the File Manager to get into those folders without having to jump to another application or another process. You can just right click on this and say open and choose open as admin. It'll prompt you for your password. Get right in. Now, I do want to point out another bit here is that throughout the use of this application, you'll find some quirks that are still visible. And here's an example of what I mean. If you right click on this folder and you go to open and you leave open as admin selected, you'll see that there is the balloon that pops up here on the bottom right here that says open the folder as administrator. So clearly it's not synced up or lining up with the action I'm trying to take with the mouse. Again, a couple of quirks. This application is still in beta. The developer states as such, so it's not a fully polished and final version of the product. So keeping that in mind, I think is good to do. So yeah, you can right click, you can get into the folder, you can get into a locked folder by entering in the password for your admin account, your root account, and going on from there. So I just wanted to focus on the devices list here for a quick second again, because I think it's got some useful information for us. It also has some quick actions that you can invoke to help you with the formatting or the managing of disks and devices. So if you hover over the bar here that you see me do, you'll get a quick pop-up here with the size used in free space. I think that's great to have at a glance. And if you actually right-click on the device or the disk, you also have other actions you can take. You can open and manage and format. Now this is my OS drive, so obviously I can't mount or unmount it. But as the CD-ROM drive goes, I can certainly do that if I need to. So quick actions that that you can invoke for devices here. Again, a nice design element from the Polo File Manager. So next I want to take a look at the status bar, because I think it's actually pretty useful as well. Plus you have a bunch of actions that you can take just like any other portion of the application here. So let's go ahead and just resize this window real quick. Might be easier to take a look at the pop-ups that come up. The first is the ability to close or open the sidebar here. That's this icon. You can toggle it to be visible or not. And then you've got the folder count here. You got 22 as a total amount or total count. 0 are the number that's selected, so change that to 1. Same thing for files, 0 of 3. So there's 1 of 3 right there. And then you've got the hidden files and folders. This is also very handy because, one, you can tell how many files or folders exist that are in the hidden state, and you can actually click on the number and you can show them or display them or make them visible so you can work with them. Give you a quick example of that. I'm just going to go back to my home folder here, and you can see that I've got 6 hidden files or folders. I'm going to go ahead and click on the 6, and there they are. So I can quickly get into one of them and see if I need to work on them and move on from there. Next is the free space that it tells you, which I think is great. It's the one thing you're most likely to view when you take a look at a disk, right? How much more space do I have to store files or folders and content? If I hover over the bar itself, you can see I get the whole thing, the size, the used, and the free. And then it gives you the extension, the file extension, and the file system, excuse me. File system in this case is an ext4. For most people, it's really not that important. I don't think it comes into play on a day-to-day basis, but for folks like me who test out operating systems, who format disks, test out new file systems that come on the market, it's important, and I think it's useful to have. Next is the search or the filter option. You can just click on that and open that up. Type in whatever you'd like to. In this case, I'll just type in log. Searches through all the subfolders or child folders and produces the results. Go ahead and close that out. Next, you've got the terminal link here, or an icon that will invoke a terminal for you. I think that's great. You can open that up, run your command that you need, make the changes you want, and then close out the terminal and move on. So I think that's also a very useful feature to have. Now, we will be taking a look at the settings next, and in the settings, you actually do have a choice that you can select the shell of your choice, you know, the one that you prefer. And some folks like to work with one over another, so it's great that we have that, that freedom to choose which one we'd like to use. So that pretty much covers the status bar. As I said, it's pretty useful as well. It's just another section of information that, you know, you find yourself glancing at or working with on a day-to-day basis for your files and folders. So I've gone ahead and just maximized the window here, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the settings for Polo File Manager. Now, there are a bunch of different tabs up here. There's a whole host of changes and configuration options that you can select from. So obviously, if I went through all of them, I think it'd take an hour on the video. So I suggest you guys download it and take a look and see if any of them match your particular interest and if you'd like to enable them or disable them for that matter. The view actually is changes that you can apply in real time. There's no apply or save button, as you can tell. So for instance, with the icon view here in the middle, which is on the left hand side here, if I change the size, you can see it take effect right away. I can change the row spacing. I can do the column spacing as well. I can disable the ellipsis file name. So if their file name is long enough or large enough that it can't fit into the width, it actually just replaces it with the ellipses, the three dots. So again, you have a bunch of changes that you can apply. Transparency just applies sort of like a grayed out effect on files and folders that are meant to be hidden or are hidden in the system. So you can easily distinguish between that and non-hidden files. Again, you can change that if you like. And you can always reset these options here at any time, which I think is also worthwhile having in the app. The UI, as you can tell, definitely a whole slew of changes here that you can select from. You can even select the path bar to be global. So if I select that, you'll see that instead of having two separate path or URL bars here, you can just say one, and it just changes it to one bar at the top. If that matches your needs, you can certainly change that. You've got a whole selection of themes here. I suggest you guys go through it and see if any of them match your taste, or better yet, your current theme that you're running in Linux, and maybe select that if that's the case. You can change out things like, for the sidebar here, you can actually affect the status bar. You can make that a global status bar. I particularly think having separate status bars, separate path bars make perfect sense because you're dealing with multiple sources, multiple destinations, and so it's worthwhile having this sort of siloed approach, so that the information you're looking at pertains to the source you're working in. You can actually work with tabs. You can say that you want it to be at the bottom or close the tab for an option here. Again, bunch of stuff here with the items of what you can have, what you cannot have. Even items here that are listed as part of the path bar. So for instance, right now, if I take a look at it, I've got the favorites here, the bookmarks here, then I've got the devices. As you can see, bookmarks and devices. I've got swap and open opposite. These are these two icons here. And as the name suggests, that you can actually swap the contents or kind of flip the folders around, if you will. So that, might come in handy at some point for you. And I can keep adding. I can have the back button. I can have the forward button, up and home if I feel that they're really worthwhile having within its own folder structure. All up to you. So again, bunch of stuff to go through. Definitely take a look and see if any of these options here make sense to you. So the columns really affect the details or the list view, as you'd expect, right? Because right now I see modified and type and permissions, and if I want to see group and I want to see if it's a symbolic link or packed, or if I want to see the MD hash, you can certainly view that as well. I don't need to see these. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and click reset here because that pretty much gives me all the information I need for now. Maybe I'll do permissions. We'll set that up. Under General, you've got a bunch of defaults here, which I do like, actually. So you get to choose the file manager that you want to open, with files and folders and stuff. And of course, files here listed, that's part of the Ubuntu experience. Or you can use Polo, or you can even use the disk usage analyzer for file manager. So you have an option of what to pick from. The view mode is pretty interesting. You can actually change out the view mode of how you want that to display initially. So I think that's nice. I particularly just leave it at a list and Polo. That's the general defaults of how it will display for me when I initially open the app. And here's a terminal. As I said before, you can choose your own shell if you'd like. You've got the Debian, the Bourne, you've got your RBash if you'd like as well. I'm going to leave it as dash here because this is what I'm used to, it's what I use most often. Then you got some confirmations, and then you can even do some sessions. So this is remember last session is what I started with on this video, where I said that when you first open up Polo File Manager and you enter in a few folders, or you go to a different destination or a different source, Polo File Manager will remember that and keep that in memory, so the next time you open the app, it'll go directly to that same spot exactly where you left off. So I think that's pretty useful there. And then you've got, actually I'm going to get that selected here. I'm going to go to the advanced. The advanced tab actually deals with KVM. KVM is a hypervisor or a virtualization software for Linux. It's obviously open source, as you'd imagine, and it actually works very well. There are a number of institutions and companies and teams and groups that use KVM. I'll throw a link down in the description of the video if you guys are interested in reading about that. And so basically, one of the things that you can do here is that you can actually use Polo File Manager to create virtual machine disks, virtual disks that you can utilize and mount and so on. So in fact, maybe I'll touch on that a little bit later. So lots of stuff here in the options. Again, if you guys have some interest in the app, I suggest you spend just a few minutes looking through most of this stuff and seeing if any of it really matters for you, and setting up the options and configuration changes that you guys find the most suitable for your environment. So lastly, I wanted to take a look at the file edit menu and some of the features that it offers us, and then also touch on the navigation buttons here. Now we've looked at the settings page, and you can go in there and actually change what displays here. So you can modify these based on your particular needs. And obviously the thing to keep in mind is that you want to make sure you're in the right or the active folder, so that the actions you do take affect the right folder, right? So in here, for instance, if I go into the mount folder, and whatever options I select will take effect that way. Now you can see the blue bar at the top, and of course that changes with me clicking on each of the folders here. So just as an FYI, just to be aware that you're in one particular folder as opposed to another. Now the terminal is, self-explanatory. Most of these are actually. You can invoke a terminal session and run your commands. Devices is nice to have here because you may be one of the folks that do not like the sidebar, so you actually may want to hide that, and then you can just click on devices and run your options here. You can mount and manage or unmount if you happen to have a device you no longer need. And you can click on the bookmarks icon here too, something we're very familiar with now, the places that we would normally access, plus our bookmarks / favorites that we create. And then the view here, the view is actually very interesting. It's a quick layout change menu, as I like to call it, in that you can actually make ad hoc changes to the particular view that the folder that you're looking at, and sort of keep it in its place. And what I mean by that is you can just toggle some show hidden files and folders, you can toggle the sidebar, you can change the view of the contents of the particular folder you're looking at, you can change how many panes you have, whether it's horizontal or not. So again, quick actions that you could take, and of course all these changes will remain once you do click out of the view. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and close that out here, open Polo back up. It'll bring back to the same exact session with the changes that I made just a second ago. Home is, again, self-explanatory. Takes you right back to the home folder for your particular user. In this case, it's the TheByteBit. And the rest of these navigation actions that you see here are available in pretty much every single file manager. So let's go ahead and take a look at the file edit menu here. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do in the file edit menu, just like you can in any application. Just wanted to point out a few of them because I think they're worthwhile mentioning here. The first is under the file menu. Obviously you can create a new tab, new windows, new admin window, folders and such. That isn't surprising, but you can connect to a server, which is an external source, and I just want to take a look at that. So if I select that, what it's going to do is it's going to utilize the active pane. In this case, it's the right-hand side here with the blue bar. And it'll allow me to connect to an FTP or an SFTP or a secure shell connection or even a Samba UNC share. And based on what you select, you can give it the information you need, hit connect, and continue working. So what I do in my sort of main machine when I'm working on clients and different builds and test environments. I have 4 quadrants that I use. The bottom 2 are the external sources, maybe a NAS or a SAN connection that I need to invoke. So and once I do connect, I can create a bookmark of it, which is great, pretty helpful to me. Add a bookmark, it shows up, and just a quick access point for me to do that. So that's great. Under the edit, you've got the same edit options: cut, copy, paste. You can go ahead and throw something into the trash or delete it, rename it. The preferences is actually a link to the same exact settings menu. So no difference there. Whether you invoke it from here or you click on the quick menu icon here, it's the same exact thing. The view, you can reload the contents of the particular folder you're looking at. Windows has it, I believe Mac has something similar, if I'm not mistaken. You can show hidden files, change the dual pane, and go into a full screen mode. Right now, I am in full screen mode, and browsers have this. If you're in a browser and you hit F11, it sort of tries to take over as much of the real estate and give you a more immersive experience. I think Macs do that natively with their maximize buttons. So you can do that and have a full screen mode of the application. Might be easier for you to work with, maybe give you more real estate, and that might be something you might want to use at a certain point. You can obviously uncheck that and get back into your normal view here with your Windows buttons here that you can close and maximize and minimize and such. So that's good to have as well. And you can change your layout, view, your sort by. All of this makes sense. You can also invoke them from the view option here as well. You can also sort. You can select your columns. So just 2 ways to get to the same exact action or the same exact type of preference here. Under the Go, you can go and open a folder if you have something highlighted. You can go and click on that and it'll open up my documents for you. You can go back, forward up, and even open up a location, which is going to just highlight the address bar here, so you can type something in. In fact, if I just delete what's here and I type in the root, it takes me right to that folder. So cloud is actually interesting, and I think it's a nice implementation of it, and I know it's being worked on actively, which is also good to know. You can attach or connect a cloud account, cloud services account, whether that's Dropbox or Google or OneDrive, and I think there's a whole slew that the developers actually integrated. And right now I actually can't because I don't have rclone set up for cloud storage support. I haven't done that on this machine yet, but you can certainly do that, and you can go ahead and connect to any cloud services that you use often. You can clear your thumbnail cache every once in a while if you do need to do that. It's nice to have that there. If you have new fonts in the system that you've installed in the OS, you want to have that display or become visible, that's available to you as well. Next is the calculate directory sizes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight the home folder here for a quick second. And you can see that everything right now, all the folders show as 4.1 KB. When you create a folder in Linux, it does take up a little bit of space on the drive, and 4 KB is about that size. But in reality, we know like the cache folder is going to have much more than that. Your documents and downloads will be more than that. So a quick and nice little feature here is you can just go into the pane that you're interested in, or the folder you're interested in. Go to Tools and select Calculate Drive Sizes here, and it'll take a second. In fact, let me just come back up here because I think I want to do it at the parent folder here. I'm going to go to Tools. I'm going to say Calculate Directory Sizes, and it'll do, calculate everything for me. 65 KB for cache. You can see the rest of some stuff is empty here. Again, this is just a test machine, so I'm not surprised that it's not too much in space. So that's what we have here. Very nice little thing option here to calculate the sizes. It's great. External tools you can open up and you can see what are available for you, what's actually found, isn't found, missing. You can take a look at it. There's also the donations plugin I talked about before, which does come with some options for PDFs and the YouTube download feature that you can take a look at and see if those are helpful to you. I think it requires like a $10 donation, but even if it didn't, I think throwing the developer some money here kind of makes sense, because obviously he's putting in a great deal of effort and time for the application. So I'll go ahead and click OK on that. And you can restart your session or reset the session and restart. What that'll do is it'll actually just close out of the application, and when I open it back up, it's going to give me a quote-unquote default view. You can tell I'm back to the home folder on both panes here. Before I was at the root folder. So that pretty much goes over the tools. The style wizard we talked about earlier in the video, and then the help gives you help links that I think are obviously needed. You can go to the home page, check out the issues, a wiki on it. You can donate and check out the about page. So I'm running the 17.10 beta version of this. So that pretty much covers what I wanted to go over with the application for this video. And obviously, as I said, there's so much to this that you can easily take an hour and go through all of the options that it has. In fact, I didn't really mention the middle menu bar here, which allows you to go into quick actions for cut and copy and paste and moving folders that you can move across from one to the other. You might want to take a look at that, especially if you're working, with certain environments where you need to copy and paste from one to the other. So worthwhile taking a look at. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I want to thank you again for clicking on the link. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know in the section below. I'll try to respond as best as I can. And I'll also provide the links I think that might be helpful for you guys if you guys want to take a little deeper dive into the application and the technology surrounding it. And I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.